here today with Mike Graham, one of the most popular presenters at Talk Radio. By one of this country's best media presenters, Talk Radio's Julia Hartley-Brewer. By Isabel Oakeshott, one of the top political journalists and commentators in this country. The Brexit hero and Conservative MP Nigel Evans. With Toby Young, the founder of the Free Speech Union. Well, yes, Annunciata Rees-Mogg, the former Conservative MEP. So, thanks for coming on the show, Madeline. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the channel.
Hi, great to be here.
Now we're joined by the one and only Nigel Farage. How are you, Nigel?
Fine, thanks, Mike. Good, yeah.
Some of us are moving on. Not everybody's apparently accepting the result. Right, let's talk about Greta Thunberg. The EU member states attacked the Commission and Germany are now in trouble. If we need more nurses, we will bring more nurses. If we don't need low-skilled workers, we won't bring low-skilled workers. So I'm currently on Edgware Road and this place is absolutely crazy. I mentioned Owen Jones having this weird meltdown for absolutely no reason.
They don't know what's about to come. This building is about to cause chaos again.
Like one of these, but, well, these are actual real flags, but the European Union flag, one of those fake flags. Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, what is going on today? So, we have some breaking news for you guys and I'm going to analyze the situation, but there's so much to report on what's happened over the last hour or so. The Privileges Committee that brought down Boris Johnson themselves are now in turmoil, absolute insanity. The self-entitled morality police people of Parliament who decided to well, we are the gods of morality. You have to follow the rules. None of us broke the lockdown rules. And Boris Johnson standing next to cake, talking to his colleagues there. He has to basically completely lose his life. So, what's going on today? Let's talk about Bernard Jenkins. Yes, Bernard Jenkins, one of the senior members of the Privileges Committee who was leading this investigation into Boris Johnson, whether Boris Johnson even accidentally misled Parliament all those months ago. And the outcome was, yeah, he unintentionally or accidentally misled Parliament. So he didn't even say he directly lied. And every time I report this, because I'm just telling the truth, that's how stupid they are. Some people in the live chat say, well, what, do you love Boris Johnson? Do you want to get a room with Boris Johnson? No, I'm just telling the truth. I'm not even a Boris fan. I'm just telling the truth about what's been going on. Bernard Jenkins is now in trouble because, thanks to Guido, we have an exclusive story from Guido, he has actually broken the lockdown rules himself. He partied during the lockdown. Yes, he did. Alongside his wife Anne Jenkins and Eleanor Lang, the Deputy Speaker of the Commons. There was some sort of birthday drinks, I guess. Basically, Guido decided to call Bernard Jenkins earlier today. He said, cast your mind back to 8th of December 2020 during lockdown. Do you remember attending a drinks party in Parliament held by Eleanor Lang? Bernard Jenkins said, I did not attend any drink parties during lockdown. Guido said, it was your wife's birthday celebration. Are you saying you did not have anything to drink? Bernard, I don't recall. And then the Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons admitted that there was a gathering indeed. But she actually said, at the beginning of the pandemic, I took advice on how many could be present in a room. I had the room measured and I kept the 2-meter ruler so that I could always verify that nobody who was working here was put at risk. Guido asked her again, were there any drinks served? Eleanor said, I don't know. I'll have to check. I'm going to have to go back and check. So she remembers having a 2-meter ruler to measure the room. She doesn't remember whether there were drinks served at that gathering and whether that was a birthday drinks. Oh my. It's funny that the whole Parliament is imploding and they are bringing themselves down. We don't even have to do anything anymore, ladies and gentlemen. I could just sit here and just relax. It's like the SNP with their scandals. Now we have the whole of the House of Commons bringing themselves down They're all going against each other. So Guido said, "No need, Eleanor. Guido has already checked." Eleanor hosted the drinks party to celebrate her friend Anne Jenkins' 65th birthday on that day. There was a cake for Baroness Jenkins, and people were invited by WhatsApp for drinks. There was a spread of food, and other MPs attended, including some of the 2019 intakes. Ooh, and others. So more people are going to be in trouble over this now. One source says that Dame Eleanor did mention the need for social distancing to some amusement. Windows and doors were open, although initial attempts to social distance went out the window. The crowd included those typically involved with Anne Jenkins and the Women to Win campaign, such as Maria Miller. Ooh, Maria Miller's in trouble too. Now, on that day, 8th of December 2020, London was in Tier 2 lockdown. Oh, I do not miss those days where you have the traffic light measures. You had the 10 p.m. curfew. You had to check the map to see what tier you live in. I do not miss it, and I'm glad that the people who kept advocating for those measures are slowly, one by one, are going down like dominoes. It's brilliant. All right, so what is Boris Johnson doing about this? Bernard Jenkins is now in trouble. He led the investigation, one of the senior members of the Privileges Committee. He's now been exposed that he and his wife attended drinks parties. It was his wife's birthday during the lockdown. Boris Johnson is loving this. Boris Johnson released a statement. He basically spoke to Guido. He said, ready for this? Get your popcorn. If this is true, it is outrageous and a total contempt of Parliament. He knows exactly how to tickle them. Boris says, Bernard Jenkins has just voted to expel me from Parliament for allegedly trying to conceal from Parliament my knowledge of illicit events. In reality, of course, I did no such thing. Now it turns out that he may have, for the whole time, known that he himself attended an event and concealed this from the Privileges Committee and the whole House for the last year. To borrow the language of the committee, if this is the case, he must have known he was in the breach of the rules. Why didn't he say so? He has no choice but to explain his actions to his own committee, for his colleagues to investigate, and then to resign. Oh dear God. Bernard Jenkins is not the only one who's been exposed as a hypocrite. We already also know people like Sue Gray. This image that GB News discovered a while ago showed Sue Gray using the same karaoke machine that was used during the lockdown. Sue Gray loves her karaoke. They're all getting exposed. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm loving my job these days. I'm going to come to the live chat, by the way. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to get your reaction as well. So what is the latest update? Now that Bernard Jenkins has been exposed for breaking the lockdown rules himself, Harriet Harman's committee is in absolute turmoil and Boris Johnson is enjoying it. Now, according to Claire Bollivant, who is the founder and editor-in-chief of Conservative Post, she says, apropos Privileges Committee Inquisitor Bernard Jenkins being accused of attending a birthday drinks party in Parliament during lockdown, the Conservative Post understands that the referral of this incident, detailed in an exclusive report by Guido Fawkes today, has been made to the Metropolitan Police, and a ticket reference has been assigned. The Metropolitan Police undertake to respond within 48 hours to determine if the matter advances and whether a crime reference number will be assigned. We note that no crime reference number has been assigned yet, and that ticket reference is not itself a crime reference number. We are not commenting on any possible outcome, which would include completely dismissing the referral. This is now a matter for the Metropolitan Police, and we will make no further comment at this stage. So he's now been referred to the police. This is now a very, very crucial moment for the Met to show whether they're going to be taking this seriously or whether they're going to do what they did with Keir Starmer. You remember Keir Starmer? Having beer, having curry with Angela Rayner and his colleagues during the lockdown. The police said, well, we're going to dismiss this case because it's historic. We don't really look into what happened in the past. But if it were Boris Johnson, or if it were me or you guys, it doesn't matter if you broke the rules 2 years ago or 3 years ago. The police will come for you. Oh dear. So this is the perfect moment to see if the Met Police and their leadership are going to be on top of it. or whether this channel is going to go all out again on the Met. So get ready for that as well. Now, all this is happening, right? And the police referral will have to get, obviously, a response. Boris Johnson is just before this happened, Boris Johnson's Privileges Committee report, they said, yes, last night, get this, last night, the committee said, the report will now not be published tomorrow, which was supposed to be today, as they are still struggling with a printing error. A possibility that it won't be published on Thursday either. Boris Johnson has been telling them to publish it so the public could see that it's been nonsensical. Somehow last night they had printing issues. Printing issues? What is this, 1997? I mean, just use a PDF. Just send it out. Send a digital version. So Boris Johnson is not happy about this either. He said the Privileges Committee should publish their report and let the world judge their nonsense. They have no excuse for delay. Their absurdly unfair rules do not even allow any criticism of their findings. I have made my views clear to the committee in writing and will do so more widely when they finally publish. Seems like, from what I hear from my sources as well, Boris Johnson is absolutely ready to bring down the whole of Parliament and open up his black book with the list of every single MP who's been a hypocrite or who's basically done some sort of misconduct or broke rules. It's going to be an interesting summer, let's just say, before the next election. We might have Labour MPs, Tory MPs resigning left, right and centre, by-elections being prepared, or they might just completely cover up the whole thing. And Boris Johnson might just disappear somehow. We're not going to hear from him. Witness protection program before he actually brings down the whole Parliament. So somehow Boris has become the Robin Hood character in this whole thing, or he's actually ironically become Guy Fawkes. So we'll see if he's going to do anything about that. Wow. Now his supporters are going to be very, very excited about this, the Boris fanboys. But let's not get too excited. Let's see what Parliament's going to do about all this. Now, the latest update on the Privileges Committee is, according to Christopher Hope, they are now going to be punishing people who have been calling the Privileges Committee a kangaroo court. They are now policing language. So they are going to be disciplining MPs who are part of the Privy Council, including people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who Rees-Mogg called the committee a kangaroo court. I'm going to call it a kangaroo court. And I'm not, as I said, I'm not even a Boris fan. This is just the truth. But they are now, the committee itself, are going to be sanctioning people for calling it a kangaroo court. What? It's absolute insanity. So, Privileges Committee to discipline Privy Councillors who called it a kangaroo court. Brace for the committee report. Now out tomorrow, apparently. They keep saying it. Christopher Hope was told that Labour members of the 7-strong committee pushed to name the MPs who called the committee a kangaroo court. They want to name and shame. They're basically creating a witch hunt following a witch hunt. They're creating witch hunts out of witch hunts. It's brilliant. It's like some sort of Netflix original show. Next season, we're going to have another witch hunt about the witch hunt of the witch hunt. Oh, how are we ruled by these people on a daily basis? How are we still alive in this country? Well, I mean, we're not really safe, but that's a different matter. Now, I know you're going to get angry at this. Robert Peston. Robert Peston is our latest source. But yeah, I did double check what Peston said is actually apparently true. Peston said also earlier on that lots of hints from Boris Johnson's allies that he will return to Parliament soon by standing in another seat. But he is not on CCHQ's approved candidates list. CCHQ is a Tory central office. So he's not actually approved by the party anymore. He's out of the party. So Peston says, so he would need CCHQ approval before he can ask to be adopted by another Tory association. Will Rishi Sunak, as leader of the party, give that approval after Boris Johnson is found in contempt of Parliament? Oh, Robert Peston, we had so much hope that you could be logical for one tiny minute. No, you can't. So that's the latest on Boris's return, unless he wants to come back with another party, a new right-wing party maybe. Jason Grove said Nadine Dorries is set to delay her resignation in order to prolong the by-election misery for Rishi Sunak. She may not quit until the summer recess, pushing a by-election in Bedfordshire into the run-up to the Tories' annual conference in the autumn. This is chaos. They are dropping grenades from left, right, and centre. So, obviously, when Nadine Dorries announced her resignation, we also had the other 2 resignations, and, well, we have so many resignations. So, they announced 3 by-elections, all on one day, the Tories, to make it easier. And the moment the Nadine Dorries found out that that's what's going to happen, she's clearly decided to say, well, I'm going to basically hold off for a bit so we could spread around spread out the dates for the by-elections. So throughout the whole summer, cause more trouble and more, there will be a lot of cost to the Tory party in terms of the spending, campaign spending and focus. They will be completely exhausted by the next general election. Oh dear God. Okay, now, before we get to the comment section, I've discovered that almost half of people watching this channel still haven't subscribed. The reason I want people to subscribe is because we have this campaign to reach 300,000 subscribers by this summer, and then we're going to have a big party. So if you know anybody, make sure to share the channel with your friends and allies and comrades to subscribe. All right, let's go to the live chat. What are you guys talking about? First comment, Robert Peston, the so-called trusted journalist. David Doyle says, how did we let the lunatics take over the asylum? We were too busy looking at the English Channel and the migrants coming in, so we weren't really paying attention to what's going on inside Parliament. That's what happened. Warren Butler says, just shows the total hypocrisy and what a stitch-up all this has been to completely obliterate Boris Johnson with the aim to end his political career. I find it disgusting. I absolutely agree with this. Robert says, it's all part of controlled opposition. Boris will say he's fighting the current Tories and get back in, thus getting back public support. Watch it and bet he brings back most of the likely lot. Laurie says, Boris isn't going anywhere. I can see him dropping some bombs. Yeah, I mean, he's already doing it. As I said, for those of you, if you join late, apparently he's getting ready to open up his black book and a list of every single MP who's committed some sort of crime or showed him some hypocrisy. He's going to be exposing every single one of them. And I think it's probably the right thing to do at this point. It's time for the whole of the house to calm down. We need a bit of a clean-up session. Drain the swamp of the establishment. What do we have with us in the live chat? So actually, we have a live poll. Let me go to the live poll in the live chat. I asked you guys before we started, do you trust Privileges Committee to be impartial? 95% of you said no. 5% of you said yes. Who is this? Who are the 5% who believe that the Privileges Committee is impartial? I would love to meet you guys. I'll take you out for a drink. We could have a nice chat. Mandy, the lunatics will still be running the asylum next year because people voted with blinkers on. Yeah, the lunatics are also, there are so many lunatics on the candidates list for both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. So what's going on with that? As he says, I supported Boris, then I didn't, and now I do again. If Boris manages to bring down all these weirdos and somehow assemble a group of actual sound right-wingers and conservatives so that they could make him conservative, then that could be interesting to see if he could actually gather more support again. If he has the blessing of people like Nigel Farage and Rees-Mogg and others, maybe even Andrew Bridgen, that could be interesting. Because Andrew Bridgen was always very good with Boris Johnson and he agrees with him on so many issues. Brexit is one of them. But it's tricky. Warren again says, this is brilliant. I might have to eat some popcorn. Yeah, I should have prepared my popcorn before I started the live stream. If you joined us late, the latest update is the fact that the senior member of the Privileges Committee, Bernard Jenkins, has now been exposed for breaking the lockdown rules himself. He was the man who brought down Boris, and he himself attended a birthday drink, at least one. It was his wife. His wife's birthday drinks in Parliament are hosted by Eleanor Lang, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, and now they're all coming down. The whole of the House of Cards is collapsing, and it's absolutely hilarious to see. Boris Johnson is loving this. He's called for Bernard Jenkins to resign, and he's called for the MPs to investigate. And we also have this statement from Claire Bollivant, the founder and editor-in-chief in Conservative Post, saying that Bernard Jenkins has now been referred to the Metropolitan Police for allegedly breaking the lockdown rules. Wow. All right, let's go back to the live chat. Jan says, Boris is still dodgy. He spouted Build Back Better, remember? And they're still creating 15-minute cities. To be fair, they need to sort this out with Grant Shapps, because Grant Shapps and these people who were in Boris Johnson's government, they've been leading on this. Rishi Sunak and Grant Shapps, and they themselves, the central government, are not implementing 15-minute cities, but they are not fighting back against local councils who are doing it. Because the local councils could say, well, the government want to do net zero, we're going to do net zero. So we need a change in the central government in order to stop the local government. So it's absolutely hilarious. Okay, we have one person, one of the 5% of you who voted yes to the live poll. I've got the answer. One of them said, I think I misread the poll. So that's why we have a few people who might have clicked on the wrong answer. Because I asked you guys, do you trust the Privileges Committee to be impartial? 95% said no, 5% said yes, and I'm still fascinated. Who are the rest of the 5% who trust the Harriet Harman's committee? Donovan Moore says, one rule for thee, but not for me. Yes, absolutely spot on. What is going on? Val says, you see, we said all along it was a kangaroo court. Boris did stand a chance. They wanted, I think didn't, yeah. They wanted rid of him as soon as he got the keys to number 10. Well, to be fair, there was a plot from day one, the moment he became party leader and prime minister, plot against him and Brexit. And they are taking their revenge. We reported yesterday on this channel about the relationship or friendship between Keir Starmer and the European Union officials. European Union have already sent out the message that the UK can rejoin the EU. And Keir Starmer has been told that you can't renegotiate the trade deal, but you can rejoin as a member. So the Labour Party are going to get ready to potentially reverse Brexit or a version of rejoin. So this witch hunt wasn't just about Boris, it was also about Brexit. And we said that. I said that a year ago. I did say Boris Johnson's government was chaotic, but I did say that let's not forget that this witch hunt is also about all of us. They're going through him to come at us. Snowy Owl says, witch hunt, bring back Boris. We have some Boris supporters as well in the chat. To be fair, I've seen some people's opinion being shifted again because of the way Boris is fighting back, because of the way Boris is exposing these hypocrites. It's going to be interesting to see what he's going to do next, obviously. I'm just going to remain impartial. I'm just going to report the news because it's very difficult to back people these days. It's fascinating. Let's have a look. Laurie says, have you ever interviewed Neil Oliver from GB News? Yes, we have actually. And it's been a while, to be fair. I might bring him back to talk about all the nonsense happening around the world. Yeah, Neil is a good friend, actually. For a Scot. No, half of Scotland loves me. The other half, the SNP, don't love me. Steve says, why is the Brexiteer Jenkin going along with the stitch-up? So this is the whole point. That's a very, very good question. Bernard Jenkin might be a Brexiteer, but he's not one of those. He's not a freedom fighter in that sense. And there were so many so-called conservatives from the Tory party and Brexiteers who were against Boris Johnson from the beginning. Doesn't mean because they were right-wing and he was liberal. No. They just had personal issues with him. And Bernard Jenkin was also had issues with Dominic Cummings. Or Dominic Cummings had issues with Bernard Jenkins back in 2016 when Dominic Cummings was appointed to lead the Vote Leave campaign and to get us Brexit done. Bernard Jenkins and many others on the committee of Vote Leave were the dinosaurs, and they were out of touch, and Dominic Cummings kicked them out. Said, we don't want you guys. So I think that was also their revenge to get back at Dominic and the Vote Leave Brexiteers and all these guys. So it's all, unfortunately, petty politics and personal vendetta and everything else. But it's really not about Bernard himself being a Brexiteer, because unfortunately people on the right also stab each other sometimes. It happens all the time. And we even had in America some members of the GOP or Republicans who used to be right-wing. They were completely destroying or attacking President Trump. So there was no unity. Anyway, let's go back to live chat. Also, I'm multitasking. If you haven't noticed, there's My accountant is trying to sort my accounts. All right, I'm back. David Foster, free speech. It was a kangaroo court. Yeah, this comment actually, again, if you joined late, is about privileged committee members have now decided to sanction people for calling the committee a kangaroo court. You're not allowed to call it a kangaroo court. So the MPs like Jacob Rees-Mogg are going to get into trouble because they call it a kangaroo court. Headstone 3 says, how will LBC survive if Labour become the government? Well, it will just become the mouthpiece of the Labour Party. LBC will just be renamed as Labour Bullcrap something C. I can't say it. Don't want to get banned. It's a family show, guys. It's a family show. Tom Chapman says, Boris will stand as independent and work with Farage. To be fair, what I can see is a right-wing movement, not a party. I can see a movement to save Brexit and get it done properly. And that movement could be led by people like Nigel Farage and Boris together as an alliance. Doesn't mean it's a party. I could see a movement, a project, let's just say, for the cause. And then in the meantime, Boris could actually stand as an independent, or I don't know, maybe he could just join Reform UK. Imagine Boris Johnson as a Reform UK candidate. That will be hilarious. Anyway. Sorry, but I just can't forget Johnson's words announcing lockdown. I mean, that was also the other reason they brought him down, because they leaked everything about him, saying he was opposing the lockdowns, he was trying to avoid the lockdowns, or he wasn't happy about being controlled by an establishment, civil servant. So people who were anti-lockdown, they said, so you were on our side, well done, but you were weak and you became a yes man. You just followed the establishment because they forced you to do lockdown. So it became a lose-lose for Boris Johnson, and Boris was freaking out before announcing the first lockdown, because firstly, he didn't want to. Secondly, he said there will be a revolt on the streets. He was wrong, because we discovered that people in this country, if you create fear enough, they would choose security over liberty, and that's the biggest problem. Security becomes the priority over safety, over freedom, and that's why there was no riots. That's why there was no revolt. People were scared so much by the mainstream establishment and media and the big tech, and we actually exposed them earlier on the channel as well. So that's what happened. Boo-foo says, so much over a birthday cake on someone's birthday. I think we have bigger problems, to be honest. I know. Absolutely agree with you. And ironically, you know the best thing about this whole thing is, considering the investigation was into Boris Johnson having cake, Bernard Jenkins breaking the lockdown rules himself as a member of the committee, it was at a birthday party and there was cake. So Bernard had cake, but Boris couldn't have cake. Actually, Boris didn't even have the cake. He was standing there for 5-10 minutes. He made a speech to his colleagues saying, thanks for working, blah, 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 something boring. And he actually walked off. I'm guessing Carrie told him to be on a diet or something. Don't have cake. The poor guy didn't even have his cake. Anyway. Okay, this is it. We're still alive. Parliament is still in chaos. And somehow, I don't know what's going on in this timeline, but I think we're in some sort of multiverse. But Boris Johnson has become the new Guy Fawkes, and Robin Hood is bringing down the whole of the House of Commons. I'm just here for the excitement, and we'll see what happens in the next election. We're going to keep you guys posted. If you're new to the channel, don't forget, as I showed you guys, please help us reach 300,000 subscribers. We have this campaign to get to 300k. Almost half of you who watch the channel still have not subscribed for some reason. I mean, it's normal. I watch a lot of channels and I just end up forgetting to subscribe. But if you want to support, grow the independent media movement, new media movement, the best thing you can do is to subscribe to the channel. And as I said, there is some sort of upside. If we reach 300k this summer, I'll throw a big party and we'll all gather, we'll have a drink, and there will be cake. Thank you so much for watching. I can't keep a straight face. I'm Mahyar 2C, and we are the media.